Secretary Rubio announced a deal this week that would allow potentially American citizens who are criminals to be put in a different country. Is that something you're looking to do?
No, I didn't know that he announced that yet, but if he did, it's fine, yeah. We have hardened criminals, horrible people. You see him pushing people into subways. The train is coming last week. Guy walking around and just sees somebody waiting for the train. Train's coming 40 miles an hour, and he gets pushed into the subway. And that happens all the time. These are sick people. If we could get them out of our country, we have other countries that would take them. It's no different than a prison system, except it would be a lot less expensive, and it would be a great deterrent. Send them to other countries. If we could go a step further, in other words, we're talking about getting the criminals out of our country that come in through other countries illegally, right? The illegal migrants, as I call them. Well, we have people that are just as bad as them in our country. If we could get them out, I'd be very happy.
Now that he's got people jazzed up on the idea of mass deportations that'll cost Americans even more money while violating any citizen's rights that they feel aren't important, Trump is moving on to deporting criminals.
I'm just saying, if we had the legal right to do it, I would do it in a heartbeat. I don't know if we do or not. We're looking at that right now. But we could make deals where we'd get these animals out of our country. And you know, if you take the shooters, the people that hit old ladies in the back of the head with a baseball bat when they're not looking, that walk down the street, the people that you see it, the people that take out a gun and shoot you for no reason at all. If we could get these animals out of our country and put them in a different country under the supervision of somebody that made a relatively small fee to maintain these people, because you know what? These are criminals. You call them hardened criminals. They've been in jail 40 times. There's one 42 times. And every time the person gets out, it's a he. Every time he gets out, he commits another crime within 24 hours. And it's a heinous crime. It's a rough crime. We don't want these people in our country either. We don't want them in our country. If we had the option to get them out and let them be based in some other country at a fraction of the cost, and frankly, they could keep them because these people are never going to be any good.
This is the same playbook he used against any brown immigrant that he wants to deport, claiming that they're all committing tons of heinous crimes by painting pictures of violent scenes that keep his supporters up at night. And he made sure not to forget to dehumanize them by calling them animals that are unable to be rehabilitated, maybe because of their inferior genes or something. Just a quick scare tactic combined with some white supremacy. It's all that's necessary in MAGA world because details are nowhere to be found.
What other countries have offered to take these Americans?
Numerous, many. And Marco brought it up today. I'm glad he did, because a lot of people are thinking it. When I watch some of the crimes being committed in New York City and Chicago, look at Chicago, the volume of crime that they have and the viciousness of the crime. These people are horrible people. And if somebody thinks they're going to be wonderful citizens someday, they're wrong. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. They're bad. These are hard, tough criminals. In many cases, they're crazy. They're absolutely crazy. But they're very dangerous. If I could get them out of the country and be in some other country where they're glad to have them because they make a small fee compared to what we'd pay to a private prison or to, put them in one of our prisons that cost even more money, I think it would be great. I'd love to get them the hell out of our country.
Now, the question was, what other countries have offered to take American citizens that you want to deport? But instead, he jumped back into more scary stories with dog whistles about Chicago, just to give his supporters the same image of a scary minority that needs some deporting. That fear blocks their brains from realizing he didn't answer the question and that their grocery prices still haven't come down.
How long will it take to cycle through and get some of the actual prices that Americans are paying to come down?
Prices at the store and at the grocery pump?
All of the above.
Across the board, sure. Well, the president is doing everything he can, obviously, to reduce the cost of living crisis in this country as quickly as possible. That's why he signed a litany of executive orders across the board. In the first couple of weeks here, he declared a national energy emergency. He committed to cutting 10 regulations for every new one on the book. As you know, working for a Fox Business-related outlet, deregulation and energy independence are huge drivers of of reducing inflation in this country. And I think Americans can be assured by the results President Trump had in his first term, when, again, inflation was 1.4% when he left office.
Is it months or is it a year? And will Americans have the patience to wait for it?
I don't have a timeline, but the president is doing everything that he possibly can to reduce cost of living for Americans at home.
Again, the question was, how long would it take to get some of the actual prices that Americans are paying to come down? He wasn't asking that the press secretary go through all the corporate-friendly policies that Republicans have always pushed for, but never end up resulting in prosperity for anyone except for the rich. But Caroline Leavitt got frustrated and said she doesn't have a timeline for all those promises, even though her boss kind of did.
But prices will come down. You just watch. They'll come down, and they'll come down fast, not only with insurance, with everything. It'll also bring your grocery bill way down.
Maybe MAGA's idea of fast is about 4 or 5 years. And by going down, what they mean is they'll go up. He's really enjoying the fruits of his extremely lazy politics, where he thrives off of people believing in his empty promises, like the one about the numbers of Americans addicted to hard drugs like fentanyl.
Even after Trump realized how disastrous his misguided freezes were and reversed some of them, there are healthcare clinics in my district that are laying off staff and cutting critical programs like STD prevention and substance abuse care because they were labeled as DEI. Republicans want to take a vote about fentanyl later today, and yet they're cutting care to get people off of fentanyl.
Wait until all those Trump supporters realize that the constant talk about fentanyl had nothing to do with putting any resources towards helping anyone addicted to it. They've been spun in so many circles to defend the wildly disappointing promises that this guy threw out there for the past couple of years that they barely even expect anything from him. Just a front row seat to cheer on the billionaire class that's openly stealing from them with no worries about them ever catching on. Because the hate that they generated cancels out everything else.
You talked a bit about Doge. Elon Musk is currently a, quote, special government employee who also owns companies that have billions of dollars in federal contracts. You said earlier this week that he has abided by all applicable federal laws, but what steps is the Trump administration taking to address that conflict of interest?
The president was already asked and answered this question this week, and he said if Elon Musk comes across a conflict of interest with the contracts and the funding that Doge is overseeing, then Elon will excuse himself from those contracts. And he has, again, abided by all applicable laws.